Hello, beautiful people. I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you are doing well and that you are taking care of yourselves. I'm Chris Danker, and this is Let the Adventure Begin. Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker podcast. The 13th century Persian poet Rumi once wrote, "Leave each day behind like flowing water, free of sadness. Yesterday is gone and its tale told. Today, new seeds are growing." From the New Testament, John chapter 14, verse 27. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." You might wonder what the New Testament in this particular chapter of John and the poet Rumi have in common. And when I think about the two, they're teaching us to let things go and to not let our worries build up and to start again, start anew, start fresh. And so I want to come to you from the perspective of self-care. When someone mentions self-care, what do you picture in your mind? Most of us probably think of it as some kind of pampering after experiencing fatigue or burnout. It's reactive. And the piece of writing from Rumi, the quote from, or the verse from the Bible that I shared with you, is more about leaving things behind, being less reactive and more proactive. So what if we were proactive instead when it comes to self-care? What if we put some things into practice so that we are practicing self-care on a daily basis? Well, that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So this podcast is all about our health, our physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual health. So instead of, being, like I said, reactive, I want us to take a more proactive approach in how we're thinking about our health. So I want to share, some ideas in kind of, like I said, being proactive, putting together some strategies or kind of a toolkit that you can come to do things that set us up for less reactivity, that less of a need for pampering ourselves when we're feeling fatigued or burnout, not getting to that place. In other words, letting our hearts not be troubled. So the first thing, that we want to look at, let's look at that physical, the body. What are some things that we do to focus on basic health? Well, two of the things that we are completely in control of are our sleeping and what we eat, and making sure that we're moving. So studies say that we need to sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. And while people might be thinking, oh, I function really well on 6 or 7 hours, or I can function really well on 5 or 6 hours, at some point, that's what's going to lead to the fatigue or burnout. So getting a minimum of 7 hours of sleep a night. I shoot for 8. My thing is that I try to start winding down, getting into bed by 8 to 8:45. And then I have my alarm set for 5 a.m. But I also, if I just naturally wake up anywhere between 4:30 and 5, I shut my alarm off and I get up because my body's telling me that I'm rested. I'm ready to go. And if you think about it, it takes each REM cycle is approximately an hour and a half. So if I wake up at 4:30, well, there's no way I'm going to get another REM cycle completed. And what I'm going to end up doing is actually I'll be more fatigued and more groggy. So I go ahead and get up, but it is, making that a non-negotiable. And, some people are like, yeah, but I have kids, what you need to make sure that you do is once your kids go to sleep, take maybe 10 to 15 minutes to do a quick pickup around the house. Do what you need to do, get it done, and instead of plopping down and scrolling on your phone or watching something on TV, honor your body, get some sleep. That is one specific thing that you can do. And eating well is a part of that as well. When we're eating well, we feel better. And some people like to do intuitive eating. And if you can, that is great. It's basically saying, that when my body's hungry, that's when I'm going to eat. When I'm about 80% full, and you might go, how do I know if I'm 80% full? It's kind of like stopping before you're knowing that you have overeaten. And we all know what that bloated feeling feels like. Stopping, and if we still feel hungry, half an hour, 45 minutes after we've stopped, maybe have a light snack, piece of fruit, a vegetable to kind of, again, get us to that point where we're maybe to that 80% full, but we're not having that bloated feeling. And making sure that we're getting movement into our day. So movement doesn't have to be an hour and a half long workout. It could be, for me, I generally do 20 to 25 minutes of yoga in the morning. That's a non-negotiable. I'm trying to incorporate, 5 to 10 minutes of stretching in the evening. So there I'm looking at almost 30 minutes of movement. During my day at school, I get anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 steps. And then, trying to maybe take a walk with my husband in the evening so that I am, having some movement without feeling like I need to get this massive workout in. It's spread throughout the day rather than in just one little spurt. So that's taking care of that physical part, being proactive and doing those things so that, it's helping, it's basically front loading that workload so that we don't get to that point where we hit that fatigue or burnout. When it comes to our intellectual well-being, what are we doing to promote our curiosity, learning, or self-development? Think about that for a little bit. Have you thought about trying a new hobby? Reading a book that piques your interest. I'm reading a book called Ikigai, which is the Japanese term for basically having a purpose when you get up in the morning. And I'm really learning a lot more about, intentionality and purpose in my life. So, figuring out something that promotes that curiosity, that learning, that self-development, that's that intellectual well-being. Then we look at the emotional aspect, health of our lives. A lot of times it's good when we have someone that we can verbally talk to, but that's not always going to be possible. No one is ever going to be at our beck and call 24/7 because people have things going on in their own lives. And so it's like, okay, if I don't have someone that I can talk to, what can I do? I can journal things out. I can do an audio journal or I can do a written journal. I can, when things are tough or when I'm feeling these strong emotions, rather than taking them out on someone or, having, not being able to actually talk to someone who can listen to me in that moment, being able to depend on myself to still find a way to get those emotions out. So that is, our emotional health really has a lot to do with being able to have an outlet that doesn't necessarily require another person. And that last but not least is our spiritual self-care. What kind of spiritual self-care do you engage in? And maybe there isn't anything in particular spiritually that is calling to you right now. And that's okay. Sometimes, that could be getting out into nature, going for a hike, going for a walk on a trail, going to a park and just sitting and letting nature come to you. So it doesn't need to ever be a formal spiritual practice if that's not what is calling to you. Like I said, just simply getting outside, breathing in fresh air can do so much for our spiritual well-being. So, in terms of, what the overarching theme today is really looking at what are some things that I can put in a toolkit, strategies that I can employ so that I can make sure that I'm doing things on the front end so that I don't get exhausted at the back end. Okay. So I hope you'll think a lot about what I said today. Hopefully something resonates with you. And before I leave, I want to tell you a couple of things. Number one, I mentioned my husband relaunching his website last week. If you're sports minded, I said go there. I told you what it was, but I said I would link it in my show notes. And I did not. So this week I have linked his website in my show notes. So if you are in Eastern Nebraska, Western Iowa, check it out. And then secondly, on my website, in episode 155, I talked about eating better. And I shared some information about the Yuka app and how I was going to start building a product. And one of the things that I wanted to do is just kind of do a soft launch with some recipes on my website. And so I have done that. So ChristineDanker.com, and I will link that in the show notes as well. It is the page called Choosing to Eat Better. And what I have put up there for my first is an easy dinner, a flatbread pizza with a side salad. I share with you the ingredients, the rating that they have from the Yuka app, and some rationale behind why I chose what I chose. And if there was something not so great that I ended up choosing, a reason for that as well. So I hope you'll check out the website and my website and also my husband's. So that's what I have for you this week. I hope that you have a fantastic week. And until we chat again, let your adventure begin. Peace.